right, welcome everyone to this Thursday night's edition of Southern Woods and Waters. And let me tell you something, there's not much going on in the woods unless you're putting out trail cameras or maybe a little feed to help them through the hard summer, or the salt licks or something like that, trace minerals or something like that to help out the deer. But tonight we're talking fishing. And I've got a real good expert with me tonight, one of my dearest friends, John Hopkins Jr. And we all call him Hoppy, but he's on board with us. That's why I went out and introduced him and greet him on the show. Thank you so much, Hoppy, for being on the show, brother.
Good to see you.
Good to see you. Now, Hoppy I'm telling you, he's owner and operator of Fate Sanders Marina right there on Percy Priest Lake. So he does know a thing or two about Percy Priest Lake. And he also knows a thing or two about when to catch fish, where to go, what to use, and things like that. And that's what we want to talk about. Everybody's talking, Hoppy, about ledge fishing. And we're learning slowly, I might add, some of us slower than others, about get off the bank, quit beating the banks, because you're going to catch some, yes, but the bigger girls are further out there in the deeper water.
This time of the year, Hugh, every year the fish are making a migration toward deeper water, cooler waters. You know, a lot of our lakes are so old that there's really no structure between the shallow spawning flats and the ledges on the main river channel.
No.
And they're just not going to sit around no structure, and they're going to go where the bait is. And so they move out toward the river ledges and toward the creek channel ledges in search of bait and feeding up after a stressful spawn.
And that spawn now, that's taking place. Now, we got catfish that are fixing to come up spawn. Right. Some of them are headed up right now.
Some of them are spawning now.
And some of them are spawning now. Some of the bluegill are still spawning, just a little bit, but I think we're kind of on the back end of that.
Right.
Smallmouth have been out. Been gone. Now the largemouth been gone. I'd say a good 3 or 4 weeks, really.
Well, generally I start catching fish when the water temperature reaches 72.
Yep.
I start catching fish on ledges. This year it didn't reach 72 as soon as it normally does.
No.
It's there now.
What happened? Just a lot of rain?
No, it really not so much rain. We just had unseasonably cool weather. You know, normally in May we'll have 5 or 6 nights of you know, 65 to 70 degree nights. To me, and I had a good fisherman friend, acquaintance, I guess I should say, give this to me. I always had a 72 degree water temperature deal. This gentleman said when there's 5 58 degree nights, it's time to go to the ledges. And to be honest with you, I in years past I didn't get out there soon enough. You know,
really?
Last few years I've been getting out there soon enough, but in years past I never got out there soon enough. And you know, now this year the fish are already out there, of course. You know, now we're getting water temperatures approaching 80. You know, in the morning it may be 77, 76. You know, but they're approaching 80. You know, that big eye in the sky came out last week and it got 90 degrees.
It got hot.
It's ledge time.
Yeah, and today it was 95. So, yep. I mean, but you said instantaneously, and we're talking about, you know, we're not just talking about Percy Priest, we're talking about Old Hickory, Kentucky Lake, all these areas. Big, huge schools of fish have moved out there. And it's just finding them using your electronics, because there's nothing to go by out there.
Right. Yeah, I mean, a lot of it is just idling, using your electronics, trying to find a big school. But one thing that people really don't understand, not all the fish that are out there on those ledges have run back up in a creek or have run back way up in a bay and have spawned. A lot of those fish will spawn actually on the river channel.
Oh yeah.
They'll find shell beds and stumps in 4 to 8 foot of water, and they'll bed on the river channel. And so those fish never really leave the river and don't have that far to go to get in prime territory.
Do you still think though that there's some fish that stay in shallow water? They're still always. They're resident fish. I'll give you an example. You can go to Percy Priest and fish in the back of, say, just give a random creek. Fish in the back of Suggs Creek. Yeah.
Once you go past the Vibrant Creek ramp, you're fishing for resident fish. They never leave. I mean, you can go back in there in the middle of August when it's beaming hot and catch fish in 6 inches of water. And you're not going to catch a ton of them, but you're liable to catch a 5 or 6 pounder back there because he lives there.
He lives there.
He never leaves. These fish that are closer to a creek ledge, they'll make their way out to a creek ledge. They'll use it for a little while, then they'll migrate off the creek ledge to the first ledge near the main lake, and then migrate back. There are migrating fish, but there are also fish that never leave the creek and fish that never leave the river.
I want to ask you something, Hoppy, because I've never put a true fisherman like yourself on the spot, but it's not a bad spot. How far do you think they travel? Once say a 6-pound female, she lays her eggs, she's doing her transition, how far do you think she really will go from where she just laid her eggs?
I think for the first week, she's going to go in between the first drop in that bay or creek.
Okay.
She's going to be
where she laid them,
and the first drop in that bay or creek. And if the lake has structure, I'll give you a perfect example. Barkley has structure between the drops and the bushes.
Yes.
Okay. Kentucky Lake, a massive amount of current, the age of the lake, a lot of that stuff that's out there, unless it's just massive stumps, is gone. And so between the bushes and the river, or the bushes in that first ledge, there's not a whole lot there.
Okay.
You know, so they're going to make it there sooner. Percy Priest, there's tons of rock everywhere. There's more places for them to find a mid-depth range resting up from the spawn than there is on, say, a Kentucky Lake or a Tennessee River impoundment.
So if I got somebody that's, say, all right, you and I, we've never fished Chickamauga. Just pretend we've never fished Chickamauga. We're going to Chickamauga. Everybody's talking about it. It's like a big trophy bass lake for Tennessee.
Yeah.
This time of year, what are you and I going to be looking for? What are you and I going to put our heads together and go, we got to come up with a plan for tomorrow?
Well, if I was going to go to Chickamauga and it was just on a weekday, and it was you and I going fishing, I'd go down there and look for schools and ledge fish. Okay. If I was going to fish a big tournament on Chickamauga, I'd have to question that. And there's a lot of grass on Chickamauga. There's a whole lot of areas that you might have to add a little bit to your ledge fishing, because the ledges on Chickamauga are limited as compared to those on Kentucky.
Yes, that's what I was trying to.
You can go to Chickamauga and fish a 150 boat tournament, and surely there's more than 20 ledges on Chickamauga, but from 2 days worth of scanning on Chickamauga last year, I didn't find over 20 ledges that I would spend my day fishing.
Okay.
But there were fish on all of them, and they're heavily pressured fish. So it's, you know, you're going to have to share a lot of those schools to come out if you're going to fish that in a big tournament. On an average day, you could go catch major numbers at Chickamauga and some big fish out there out wide. But like I said, there's a lot of grass. Chickamauga is a great shallow water fishery as well. Everybody talks about going in there and throwing a big crankbait or a hair jig or an Alabama rig, which in the early spring, that's a great way to go down there and catch a monster. But you know, those monsters tend to disappear when it gets this time of the year.
All right.
Most of those fish are caught in February and through the winter.
I want you to hold these.
Of course,
thoughts.
I'm not Raj Brown. Raj Brown probably got him a secret 10-pounder spot or two.
I tell you what, we're going to take a quick break. When we come back, we're going to have our pictures of the week, and then we're also going to talk more in depth. We're going to put Little Hoppy on a little scenario. Hurry back to more Southern Woods of Water.